webinar. We have a few minutes of introduction, followed by a PowerPoint presentation from our panel, and we'll that by a series of questions. And then we'll open up the call to the audience to take any call or any questions that come in from you all. First, welcome you all, and let's say that today's call is part of the NOAA Nature Conservancy Partnership on Reef Resilience. It's also supported by the MacArthur Foundation. Via this partnership, we have the opportunity to host a series of webinar presentations. At this presentation, you will have the opportunity to ask questions of our panelists. Use your hand within WebEx to alert us if you'd like to ask a question. Please introduce yourselves and give us your name and institution before asking the question. You can also submit questions using the chat panel if you'd prefer. And please include your institution with the question. Now started. Today's call, we're going to learn more about the progress made in Maui in building community-based conservation and effective management for marine protected areas. Joining us on today's panel are Emily Fielding, who's the Maui Marine Program Coordinator for the Nature Conservancy. Emily is coordinator for the Nature Conservancy's marine programs in Maui and works with community and agency partners to build effective models for management of our coral reef and intertidal ecosystems. Joining the Conservancy, Emily coordinated the management planning at Papahanaumoku Aka Marine Monument and also assisted in the formation of the Leeward Haleakala Watershed Restoration Partnership. Emily earned her master's degree from the University of Hawaii in geography and a bachelor's degree in communication from California State Polytechnic University in Panama. By Manuel Mejia, who is the community-based marine program manager for the Nature Conservancy. He has more than a decade of experience working with communities throughout the Pacific and building local capacity for conservation action. Joining the Nature Conservancy in 2006, he coordinated the locally managed marine area network in the Asia-Pacific region and managed a UNESCO World Heritage Site at Sylva National Marine Park. Currently, Manuel oversees our community-based marine conservation work in Hawaii and manages a Recovery Act project to restore coral reef habitat while stimulating the economy through job creation. Manuel has his undergraduate degree from Yale University in reef conservation and has a graduate degree from Columbia University in environmental science and policy. Finally, joining us on our panel today is Roxie Sylva. She's the Assistant Marine Coordinator for the Nature Conservancy. Roxie is the newest hire for the Maui Marine Program. She graduated from the University of Hawaii at Hilo with a bachelor's degree in marine science in 2009. Based in Hana, one of the focus areas for the Marine Program. Before Conservancy, Roxie interned with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Maui Fish Pond Association. She also conducted field research at Midway Atoll and Hawaii Island on parrotfish abundance in protected areas. So we're going to get started with today's PowerPoint presentation, which will give us an update on progress within Maui's marine coral reef conservation program. Emily, if you'd like to get started, go ahead.
Thank you, Becky. Can you see desktop?
Thank you.
Great. Today we're focusing on the Nature Conservancy of Hawaii's Marine Program, which is supported by NOAA's Coral Reef Conservation Program. We're currently 1 year into this 4-year partnership, and we are very appreciative of NOAA's support in our efforts. As you know, Hawaii is located in the North Pacific Ocean, over 2,500 miles from the nearest continent. The Hawaiian Island archipelago is the most isolated grouping of islands on Earth. Isolation has resulted in high rates of endemism among a wide range of taxa on land and in the ocean. Over 25% of the 7,000 marine species are endemic. If we lose these rare and unique species here, we lose them from the world forever. So, PNC's main work in Hawaii. Our role is to provide technical support for planning, science, and management at priority sites where we're invited by these groups. We currently actively support 6 coral reef sites, 2 on Maui Island, 2 on Honolulu, and 2 on Maui. In 3 decades in Hawaii, the Conservancy has learned that lasting conservation success depends on building strong partnerships with the people who live in and care for the places where we work. We work with local communities to improve marine resource management because we know that empowered communities will help ensure that conservation results will endure. So some information about the status of Maui's marine resources. It's home to some of the healthiest coral reefs in the main Hawaiian Islands, with excellent live coral habitat, a large number of reef fish species, and important populations of threatened and endangered animals such as whales, seals, and sea turtles. While Maui's coral reefs are faring better than other places in the world, we are not immune to the downward spiral plaguing reefs worldwide. Coral fisheries have plummeted since the 1950s, and reef studies have shown that Maui's coral reefs have declined by 35% over the last 10 years at surveyed sites. So in response to these resource declines, and again to emphasize our working strategy and on-the-ground philosophy, it's the ground managers that live and work in communities that are key to the long-term success. These are ones who will do the conservation strategies to restore and manage marine resources. We heavily on capacity building. We have the marine program has 3 project areas that we will do today. The first, community-based marine conservation in Hana, and that's where the yellow star is. And I provide some background and context for this project, and Roxie Sylva will tell you about the implementation of their management plan. Second project area is supporting the Maui Nui Marine Resources Council. And Manuel Mejia will present on our important collaboration with the Council. Our third and final project area is effective conservation for marine protected areas, and I will be the presenter for this topic. Our location is Fiji Natural Area Reserve, where we are working now. Our first programmatic area is Hana. We're creating a model of community-based management. And that's the next few slides to help explain why we're working there, and work closely with the community group Mejia to create a model for community-based management. This community group manages the coastal lands and nearshore reefs of Mejia for conservation. The purchase of this land, a parcel of about 70 acres, was made possible with NOAA funds about 5 years ago. I'd like you to meet 2 of the community leaders there deeply involved in this project, Walter and Hanky Harris. They have seen personally the decline in marine resources in their lifetime and want to restore Hana resources to summer abundance. Walter, on the far left, the gentleman with the sunglasses and the on, remembers when he was a youth, parrotfish in the nearshore reefs were abundant that you could see their blue-green colors in the sunlight from the shore, something he never sees in Hana these days. The photo on the right recalls when he was a kid, his family would catch the delectable Pacific thread-fin fish, moi, so large that he had to hold the heavy fish by the tail at his neck so it wouldn't be on the ground. This is 24 inches or over 10 pounds. A fish that is rare today, where 1 to 2 pound fish is the norm. During those times, 30 years or so ago, his uncle would inspect the catch of the youth that came in from fishing and only reprimand anyone catching the wrong fish at the wrong time or size. Turns on the shoreline enforcing these level regulations. Very different world today, both ecologically and socially. Different kinds of community responses are in order. Today, Walter co-chaired the Marine Resources Committee of the community group and oversaw the development of the group's action plan to restore abundance to the marine environment that they remember as youth. The duo is seen here leading a community in the meeting kicked off their planning process. They are respected in Hana, which is a small rural town with strong native Hawaiian traditions. The plan they developed attempts to address both resource decline and the perpetuation of traditions that are inherently conservative, like seasonal and species-specific information that Hank's uncle enforced years ago. Hank and their community group, audible people conserving incredible nature, like this coral reef community you see just offshore from the picture previously. So it's the community and the resources that make the place worthy of our investment in capacity building. So in addition to healthy coral reefs, like the ones you just saw, Hana also has healthy watershed forests and low development impacts. But the way toward effective local management for marine resources in Hawaii today is a challenge. Marine biological resources is better understood with some social and historical context. Fate of the Hawaiian population between 1800s and the 1800s, a highly evolved, localized resource system under Hawaiian chiefs, hundreds of thousands of people fed from the land and sea. Changes in government regimes and ideologies over the past 100 years or so have centralized management control of ocean resources in Honolulu. So today, people like Hank and Walter and communities like Hana are working to meaningful management to the local level, using some proven tools of traditional management that they experienced a few decades ago. My knowledge still resides with Hana elders, and the community now seeks to learn and apply that knowledge. This introduction to community-based management and some of the management changes over the past years or so in Hawaii, I'd like the presentation over to Roxie Sylva, who will continue to discuss our specific work in Hana.
Thank you. Part of the presentation, I'll be discussing the implementation of the management plan for the Hana community. So accomplished by this community. A few years ago, TNC was asked to provide support for marine management planning, resource monitoring, and plan implementation in this community. With our assistance, the group completed a management plan. Their objectives seek to increase marine resource abundance, engage local families, revive and continue Hawaiian cultural traditions, and reach the larger community in order to serve as a model of marine management for Maui. This photo shows a collaboration of our partnership with the group Namo Mu'olea, the Hana Community Youth, and UT's Hawaii Institute of Biology. Together to implement the plan, we did a community-led process to survey rocky intertidal areas, highly prized edible limpet, or OP live, and did a code of conduct for harvest. This survey has provided the opportunity for community members of all ages to have hands-on experience with scientific methods as well as insight to the health of their resources. Here you can see the 3 endemic opihi, or limpet, we have in Hawaii. Recent intertidal surveys show that there is generally a higher abundance of Kaiauli opihi on the left throughout the archipelago. It also shows that Maui has the second highest abundance of opihi in the state. This only shows Maui's opihi as high in abundance today. This graph shows that over time, opihi has been overharvested, which has led to a great decrease in its abundance throughout the state. There are so many opihi that they were overlapped on the rocks, and you don't see this type of abundance today. All part of the community management plan is TNC's biological survey team, shown here, who conducted 2 consecutive years of coral reef and reef fish monitoring at Olea and comparison sites throughout the state. The results of both of these monitoring surveys are compared to other sites throughout the state. It informs the community of the status of their resources and can assist the community in management decisions. Here are the reef survey locations throughout Mo'olea. There are 16 transect sites over a mile of coastline. found that Mo'olea has a lot of fish, and we want to keep it that way. The scientific survey from year 1 of the reef fish monitoring show that there are healthy fish populations in Mo'olea in comparison with other sites around the state. You can see from this graph that the Mo'olea site in the blue bar has more large reproductive sized fish than all except one site in the main Hawaiian Islands. However, this measurement of current surveys and does not represent how abundant resources once were. Therefore, to obtain a more useful measurement of the relative abundance of fish in Mo'olea, comparative sites along the Hana coast need to be surveyed as well for a better understanding of a regional comparison. Some opihi been over-harvested throughout the years, but also the fish. For outreach to the Hana community, the group has produced a major annual outreach event called the Hana Limu Festival. Shown here is the Hawaiian term for algae, which is an important component of the Hawaiian reef and intertidal ecosystems. It is highly valued in Hawaiian diet and medicine. It allows for youth involvement and community awareness. The annual Limu Festival will be held this coming weekend at Hana Bay. The University of Hawaii's First Lady of Limu, Ella Abbott, shown here, is from Hana, where she learned about the intricacies of Limu from her Hawaiian mother. This year's festival, they will announce the establishment of a scholarship in Dr. Abbott's name. This is my first slide in helping to build Mo'olea as a model for community management in Maui. So what are the future directions of this project? Mo'olea's efforts at leading the way in the Hana community, we have been able to support the assessment, planning, and monitoring processes for another Hana area community group, Kipuhulu Hana. So far, we have worked with them to conduct a baseline intertidal survey and core reef and reef fish surveys. In the photo is Kipuhulu's community leaders John Lin, the man in the middle, and his wife Tweety in the purple shirt. He is the Konohiki of the area, which is a skilled person who oversees the management of resources from the mountain to the sea. Changes in laws, this type of traditional resource manager is rare today compared to traditional times. The authority of this type of management has changed greatly from traditional practices. Today, Uncle John Lin's Konohiki status as a potentially important tool in the management of the Kipuhulu area, and the process there will begin this spring. The management plan for the Hana community has been implemented through community and biological reef monitoring of the resources, outreach to involve the community as a whole, as well as expansion throughout Hana coast. I will now be handing the presentation over to Manuel.
Thank you, Roxie. Thank you for the introduction, and Roxie and Emily for the discussion of our work in Hana. To get started, I would just like to say what an honor and privilege it is to work with you and the people in the communities you work with in Maui, as shown in this picture here. It's truly a delight, and I feel very fortunate to be peripherally involved with your exciting work in Maui. So, mahalo. Now, I will discuss the second area of focus for the Maui Marine Program, the Maui Nui Marine Resources Council. The Council is a local community group designed to bring resolution to near-shore coral reef management issues. The diverse membership includes fishermen, Native Hawaiians, educators, and representatives from all geographical areas of the island. The goals of this group are to restore an abundance of fishes and clean water to the reefs of Maui Nui. Nui big or great, and the Maui Nui complex, or Greater Maui, is comprised of these 4 islands, Maui, and its names Kaho'olawe, Molokai, and Lanai. This is a geological as well as a political grouping. When the sea levels were much lower than they were today, all of these islands were once connected. And today, and at that point, they were all under the political power of the Maui chiefs as well. And today, politically, it's also all under the city and county of Maui. So we have background on the Maui Nui complex. So earlier this year, the Council's Abundance of Fishes Committee, on behalf of their members, asked us to help the Council establish a community learning network to empower communities to become marine conservation leaders on Maui. We set up a meeting for 7 of the Council representatives and community members to meet with LMA, or locally managed marine area representatives from Fiji. This galvanized their current emphasis on building a similar learning network on Maui. that this meeting between a community group that has had experience and met with success with implementing a marine managed area and a community that wants to do it was very catalytic, and it speaks to the power of a successful model inspire other communities to do the same. I think it's more powerfully illustrative than other communities showing that it can be done and sharing their lessons with other communities that face the same resource management challenges. Initially, the LMMA network in Fiji was also funded by the MacArthur Foundation along with Packard Foundation. To begin this process of building this learning network, in October of this year, at the Council's request, Parks, Emily Fielding, Roxie, Sylva, and myself provided training for the first of a series of trainers workshops to enhance local community capacity for coral reef conservation. Technical service providers, we facilitated the training in participatory assessment techniques with two communities, Kahulu and Lahaina. Through the workshop, Rena Sampson, the woman in the center of this photo, took leadership in the community process and emerged as one of the champions for this process. It is important to note here, as MS mentioned, that we engaged this council and community groups upon invitation. Were invited and welcome to assist with their needs, and so we were asked to provide this assistance, and we feel it is exactly this kind of community motivation that we like to invest in, where there's a lot of will and enthusiasm and motivation to change things, because we feel that by investing in these communities, we will get conservation returns on our investment. Rena is the daughter of one of our most influential commercial fishermen on Maui, and the mother of a high school junior who aspires to study marine biology in college. Over the course of 3 days, Rena emerged as an organized, compassionate, passionate, and effective leader. Her enthusiasm were infectious, and we're expecting great things from her and her community. Rena is showing off the map completed by the Lahaina group in the workshop mapping session. The training workshop, which spanned 3 days, comprised of hands-on learning activities such as how to create a historical timeline of their area, how to participatory community mapping of their area, rapid ecological assessment of the resources in their area, and how to create a seasonal calendar that promotes the revival of old sustainable fishing methods based on natural cycles. For example, when to fish certain species or when to fish, such as when the fish are spawning. Activities led to a better understanding of the spatial distribution of their resources, conditions, what the threats are, as well as even stronger sense of place and identity for these communities. In summary, we're just providing simple, tried and tested community tools within reach so they are empowered to do local stewardship and resource management on their own. Here, we see Rena, again, leadership in action, leading a drawing exercise, and emphasized here that maps are more than pieces of paper. They are stories, conversations, lives, and songs lived out in a place and are inseparable from the political and cultural context in which they are used. You see Rena describing the sand drawings with significant resources and features of where she lives, as well as stories that infuse this place in terms of folklore, place names, and songs. Another leader, both culturally and political and spiritual. Could you turn back one slide, please? Sol Kaho'o Hala from Lanai, who's currently running for Maui County Mayor, but he provided fantastic guidance on terms of political, spiritual, and cultural voice, and encouraged the group to think of how the Hawaiians sustainably manage the resources. So that was fantastic. What a resource to have there. In the slide, we see the Kahului community poring over a time series of aerial photographs of their site, looking for changes to the environment over time, which is illuminating for all to see, especially the key land use changes that happen to the environment and the coastline changes that affect the resources today. You see on the next slide that the Lahaina group is also participating in the same exercise for their area. These hands-on community mapping and resource assessment exercises gave the community members a better sense of what resources they had, what they have in their condition, an invaluable baseline for when they start to plan conservation action in their areas. Give them a better spatial understanding of the surrounding resources, what affects their health, and will inform their efforts to manage their areas. For example, how big a delineation to make, where to put the boundaries, what interventions and strategies to implement, etc. The key is really the participatory process. So much rich details come out that simply cannot be captured by recent technologies such as Google Earth or GIS technology. In terms of ecological significance of this area, so you can see this photo was taken during the participatory resource assessment, just a few yards offshore of this job site. A clear testament to the quality of resources that can benefit from community-based conservation. Literally just a few yards offshore, just a little past the breakers, and again highlights the biological significance for working in these areas with community motivation. During this resource survey, I was amazed and excited to see when we spotted this healthy seagrass meadow, literally yards offshore. The picture in the lower right is expecting the seagrass specimen. I was amazed because we have precious few species on Oahu and few remaining healthy patches, and it is right at home in the special area of Lahaina in Maui. Global seagrasses are one of the most overlooked endangered habitats in coral ecosystems. Literally just yards offshore, these patches continue to provide ecosystem services such as fish nurseries and feeding grounds for fish and turtles, as well as soft sediment retention. Lastly, in support of the Council and its communities, we will conduct a workshop series over the next year focusing on planning, monitoring, and implementation. So we hope to facilitate a process to enable Hana and Maui communities to be part of a single learning network, with Mejia out ahead as the early adopter. Exceptional leadership and foresight at the October workshop, the Council and its members formed a Maui Nui Community Managed Marine Area Learning Network. You can see the members very determinedly signing their agreement despite an injured hand here, and signed and created this declaration which showed commitment to bring back the fisheries in their own beautiful and inspired words. This network on October 10th, 2010. And if I may just quickly read an excerpt of the declaration, because it's so eloquently put. Motivated by our love for our island home and concern for the sustainability of our natural resources, we actively and purposefully support community efforts to mala aina, or care for, under the direction of kupuna elders and other knowledgeable community members. Our efforts will perpetuate core traditional Hawaiian values and practices. With humility, we put the fish first to ensure that aina will return to the abundance during our lifetime and for future generations in these islands. This set of training workshops will provide the capacity building that they requested to manage the resources better. Sometimes this lack of technical training is all that separates them from implementing their stewardship. Through trainings, they will have the framework to assess and evaluate the effectiveness of their conservation efforts and adapt it as they go along. Have a group or support network on which to rely on for help, and accelerate our collective learning for improved practices in marine conservation is an incredibly useful and powerful conservation tool. Hand it back to Emily.
Manuel, that was inspiring. Just happened a few weeks ago in early October. All right, for our third and final Maui program area, effective conservation for marine protected areas. Maui is fortunate to have several marine protected areas that have essential components of effective conservation covered, are legally protected, have enforceable rules and regulations, and biological monitoring is being conducted at many of these sites. Great start. However, more is needed. The state seeks to expand the effectiveness of conservation at these marine protected areas through the development of management plans. We began our support for marine protected areas with management planning for a Hihikina'u Natural Area Reserve, a state managed reserve encompassing highly unique biodiversity, as you see here in this photo collage, ranging from amazing coral reef resources to aquatic, very rare aquatic resources in kaline pools and the young lava flow on the island of Maui. Interest in working on this project was to utilize a collaborative, stakeholder-led process to build a basic model of effective conservation that would be supported into the future. One that's a management plan, a manager, stable finances, and meaningful community involvement. This collaborative process of developing the plan was made possible by people like this dedicated reserve ranger, Matt Ramsey. And because of him and his dedication and enthusiasm, and the enthusiasm of the Advisory Council for Reserve, which is a stakeholder group as well. Through leadership and boundless energy, the reserve was a perfect complement to our contribution of plant expertise. And so, through our process together, we help to channel and guide staff and community passion to protect the area. Part of the reason that people like Matt are so invested is because reserve resources are in good shape. As you can see here, the coral reef resources on Maui are amazing. The loss, as I mentioned earlier, with the loss of over 35% coral cover over the last 10 years from the reefs, it won't stay without help. And that's why efforts like this are so essential to look forward and prevent degrading impacts in the future. So with completion of the Ahihi-Kina'u Reserve Plan this year, we turn attention to the other marine protected areas and helping them to build their conservation action plans in 2011. So peer learning workshop series, like the one I just put a star on, Kaho'olawe, we help to be coached by us through a planning process together with their peers at Mokini Marine Life Conservation District, Kahili Herbivore Fishery Replenishment Area, and Hola Mokuleia Marine Life Conservation District. So the idea is that these 4 sites together, with the experience, looking at the experience that the Ahihi-Kina'u has already had, go through learning and coaching workshop so that at the end of the workshop, they each have developed all the parts of their own plan, and they bring their own stakeholder groups to the table. We started in 2008 supporting 2 sites on Maui that you see here, and we discussed today, the Yellow Star Hana and Red Star Ahihi-Kina'u Natural Area Reserve. While these are still works in progress and will continue to grow over the years, they're all now cornerstone examples for other groups seeking similar gains. So these sites can be looked to as learning networks are developed for communities. So that's Hilo and Hana on the right-hand side of the slide, and Kahului and Lahaina with the orange stars, and one for MJs. So the next couple of years, these networks will learn new things together. So community and effective management is becoming a reality for 9 Maui sites through this program. To wrap our discussion today, this little female Saran Mar Morata shrimp and I would like to leave you with a few take-home messages. First, I think it pays to invest in building strong examples of well-managed sites because investments in these sites can leverage conservation gains on a scale large enough to make a regional biological difference. Second, we felt it's very important to clearly define our role as technical advisor to our community and agency partners. As our job is to empower and advise our partners to reach their conservation management goals and cultural goals, which in turn help us to meet our biodiversity conservation goals. We've taken, and we always do, take great pains to clearly define our role. It's made a difference, and it really helps the community and agencies to feel empowered about one project. Finally, like the symbiosis between the coral polyp, the symbiotic algae, sunshine, and plankton that enables this massive Parietes lobata coral colony to thrive. We're working together with NOAA, communities, and the state to empower people like Walter, Hank, Rena, and Matt toward the common goal of resilient and healthy coral reefs that we will all benefit from. I close with this inspiring view of a Hihikina Reserve again, and then to thank you to NOAA for supporting this work, and thank you to all of you listening today.
Thank you much, Emily, Roxie, and Manuel, for that fantastic presentation. We're going to have a series of questions for the panel, and then we'll open up the questions to the audience. If you have any questions, you're welcome to either send them in to us via chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll call on you at that time. My first question is for Emily. Can you describe some of the changes that have taken place in the community structure in Maui and why there might be a lack of people like Hank's uncle to protect the catches and to help keep the youth in line in terms of restrictions?
Great question. A couple of things have happened, and they've happened worldwide. It's that people work all the time, and some where people might have been out and about and more involved in their community, they're busy with other activities. The primary reason is that laws, rules, and the structure of government and how communities work has changed. So more we see a centralized system. So in people's minds, both in their activities and in their minds, they don't feel it's so much their role anymore, given that there's an agency in charge of that now.
I think that was a good response and very helpful. I guess also, I think I'd like to know more about some of those community structures. Are there ways that we can reintroduce some of those types of social roles through conservation efforts?
And I think this is one of the really important activities that Mo'olea plans to do, is really go back to those elders and learn what it is that they used to do and all the reasoning behind it and the tradition behind it, and then reintroduce that through modern tools such as community trainings and outreach events and really peer learning, so that people learn those things together and apply it together, and then you gently pressure one another to comply. A way is to take that information and introduce it into the rulemaking process.
Really. Roxie and Manuel, do you have anything to add?
No.
Nope, I think I'm covered.
Great. Next question relates to the role of long-term resource managers. A couple of you touched on this idea, but I'd really like to know more about what you think about the role of long-term resource managers and why they are so important to local resource conservation in Maui.
Sure, I'll take this if that's okay. As described earlier, we really believe at TNC that lasting conservation success depends on the people who live in and care for the places where we work. And we take this hyper-local approach for several reasons. One is for sustainability. In the long run, when TNC exits, it is only these local resource managers that are deeply rooted to these special places and their families that have the intimate knowledge of these resources and cycles, and it will design and carry out conservation strategies for lasting and tangible results. So it makes sense to invest in them early on. For authenticity and credibility, there's no ambassadors or spokespersons for these special areas. Find more passionate and dedicated folks than those who are working to protect their own backyards and island homes. They are key opinion leaders usually and are usually very well respected and recognized within their communities, and so people really pay attention to them. Really seeking them out in partnership is critical to this kind of work.
Great, thank you, Manuel. And following on that idea, in terms of those long-term resource managers, you also talked about community leaders and keeping community leaders like Reina engaged. How do you propose that conservationists can keep folks like Reina engaged in the management process?
Sure. This is a great question, Becky, and always challenging to balance and sustain community volunteers' enthusiasm and commitments with day-to-day family and work obligations, which of course always come first. You know, typically most community members will hold at least one job on top of taking care of families. So one common quality I saw among community leaders is their overall vision and long commitment to their place, and then that ahead of their own interests. And I think this is why people gravitate towards these leaders. One to help build this foundation is for NGOs like us to continue providing training, for us to continue to provide training that enhance their internal capacities to do conservation, monitoring, and adaptive management. I think that by networking other communities together and fostering the share of ideas on how to tackle similar challenges that they face keeps the fire going, and it's really this commitment to each other that they build on. They feed off the energy of this. And for example, to today, 10 years after the LMMA network has been established, these social interactions and bonds, you know, cross-culturally across different countries are still alive and well. These friendships built through training and shared problems help each other out, and that keeps the commitment of community leaders over time. Lastly, I think we have to inject a lot of fun. You know, I think the social aspect of it makes it fun for them, and I think that's the biggest antidote to burnout. So it's becomes a social event.
Thanks, Manuel. And following on that, we've talked about Maui. I thought it also interesting that you brought up the learning network from Fiji, and Maui was interested in learning from Fiji. A little bit more about what Fiji had learned that could be useful for conservation on Maui.
Sure. I think what attracted the Maui group to the Fiji LMMA model is that from hiring Fiji examples, that it is possible to do this here in Hawaii as well. That I think we're jazzed that they could do it, you know. That even resource-poor regions can successfully and effectively implement their own locally managed marine areas was very exciting. Do it, so can we here in Hawaii. And some of the lessons that Fiji learned that I think can translate real over here are, you know, because of the similar biology, the similar reef ecosystems, and similar Pacific cultures, instead of going to east to temperate fishery models, it's difficult to translate that when you have complex tropical fisheries. But if we look to our Pacific islands, there's a lot of biology as well as cultural similarities that makes learning a little easier. For example, the Tambu areas in Fiji and the Kapu systems are very similar. Basically, additional reserves. Like that, the chief system in Hawaii has been pretty much raised while it's still very much intact in Fiji. Under a centralized top-down approach and U.S.-based government structure, it's challenging to do local resource management. But emphasize it is possible, and there are several communities that are leading the way here in Hawaii. I think that what would work best in Hawaii is a management model, which is very, very promising, and Emily can talk more about that. Another lesson is community-based monitoring has to be relevant culturally and economically. People are busy enough working one or two jobs, and on top of their taking care of their families, and so out of respect for their time and effort, monitoring plans should be tailored to suit their lifestyles, but still provide useful data and information. For example, instead of monitoring obscure and cryptic fish as biodiversity indicators, you can target fishes and the harvest and reproductive cycles of these species as your indicators. The idea is not to add work, but to work with their existing systems. Last, while outside technical support from universities and NGOs is key for proper training in the beginning, we've learned that in the long run, once communities get the hang of it, they can run with it on their own. This provides huge cost savings, not only in expensive monitoring, but also in terms of enforcement, because they provide the ever-present eyes and ears on the water to deter poaching, making it more sustainable in the long run. And we want to add more to the co-management model for Hawaii.
It's something, a precious few tools to kind of combine state management efforts with community efforts. One of those is a subsistence fishery management area, which is a designation that's available to communities. But it doesn't answer the question. Government and community work together. So we hope through these processes that we're in now is to develop with our partners a co-management model that makes those links more clearly. Currently, the state absolutely supports community efforts, but we need more on the model. And there's some great examples throughout the Pacific Southeast Asia to look to on co-management models.
And Emily, that was a really comprehensive and interesting response. Our question relates to the implementation of marine protected areas. I'd like to know a little bit, Emily, if you can give us some feedback on how communities specifically play a role in two kind of traditional management areas, legal protection and biological monitoring.
Becky, good question. We had some really great examples at work here on Maui, led mostly by State of Hawaii Division of Aquatic Resources, and they've got some models where they're engaging the public. Anyone can come out and help with the herbivore monitoring, a snorkel monitoring method, and that goes out on a listserv, and folks come down. We've got a model with the OP monitoring, again, where it's a citizen-led or community-led model with a little bit of training to get some really great data. We've just community support to the Kahikili herbivore replenishment area, and that was a great way for a community and the public to be involved in marine conservation. Kihikina Natural Reserve, well, there's very much worth replicating different sites on the island. It's an advisory group, so there's a 13 stakeholder, very diverse stakeholder base that convene regularly to advise the state management of that marine protected area. So it's a model that can easily be replicated for community and community involvement at other marine protected area sites on the island.
Manuel, did you have anything to add to that one?
Nope.
Okay. I have one more question for Emily, and that is in regards to a learning process. We talked a bit about the sites on Maui that will be participating in that learning process. Can you tell us which sites are going to be coached, and then who will be doing the coaching? And then can you describe a little bit about the type of coaching that you'll be utilizing?
The process that we're talking about, where the 4 marine protected area sites come together and do management planning, is coach us at the Nature Conservancy, and we're trained in conservation action planning. And so one of those sites would bring a small group of representatives to the table, and then we go through the 10 action planning steps together. And actually, they would learn and do them at the same time, so that at the end of the series of workshops over about a year, they have a conservation action plan in hand. And if they do further outreach or further community collaboration along the way, they can also do that parallel process.
Thank you, Amy. Our final question for this evening is for Roxie. We'd like to know a little bit about how the intertidal survey data that you talked about helped communities with management and decision making.
Okay, this shows the community noticed that overharvesting of opihi occurs mostly during the summertime, and this is when there tends to be more family gatherings due to graduations or family reunions. So a lot of the community seems to be harvesting opihi at the same amount of time. So to this type of impact, what community members do is they designate when each family can go down and harvest, and this kind of shifts the pattern of harvesting, which can help lessen the impact. Another example in Hana is the Kipuhuo Hana, the second community I talked about. Very interested in establishing an opihi no-take zone, which can serve as an opihi replenishment area.
Thanks, Dee. First, I'd like to take up the opportunity to thank our panel. Thank you so much, Emily, Manuel, and Roxie, for sharing your perspectives on community-based conservation in Maui. I'd like to ask if the panel has any closing remarks, and then we will say farewell.
This is Emily. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mahali, and just in closing, I just wanted to recognize those community leaders that make all this possible, and to Noah and MacArthur's support as well.
Great. Thank you all for a fantastic webinar. We look forward to continuing this series with future webinars. Stay tuned. You'll hear from Reef Resilience with your case studies and hot topic calls, and we appreciate all of you joining us tonight.